breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warm and friendly hello. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson. Now part of the VSiN family of podcasts, we've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Scott Reichel. He does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, looking at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. And for those that know him, he does a little bit of everything: tennis, basketball, both men's and women's basketball, along with baseball, football, you name it, he does it. We're going to chat with him about what he's all seen here in the first 5.5, 6 weeks of the season, the struggles that we've seen for the Mets, Phillies getting back online, and then take a look at some games for Wednesday in the final segment. Going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Wednesday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one or two ways to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at GUnit_81. Keep in mind, there's the name does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Well, I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today. We had a fun day of baseball on Tuesday. Let's take a look back at it, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Mets did not lose on Tuesday because their game actually got snowed out. The Miami Marlins did, though. 9-7. The Orioles get the job done. Chris Bassett, not the starter he was looking for, taking hook, line, and sinker for 4 runs in 4 innings, but bullpen from there did their part, and so did the offense, by the way, as for the Orioles, 5-13 with men in scoring position, did have Anthony Nunez give up a pair of home runs, 2 solo shots in 1 1/3 innings, as Otto Lopez, 4th home run season, Liam Hicks is 8th, and for Keegan Aiken, a scoreless setting, you had Grant Wolfram get a pair of outs out of the bullpen squirrels, Andrew Kittredge an unearned run, give it up in 2/3 of an inning, and Uncle Rico Garcia gets the final 4 outs for the win, and Sandy Alcantara just not sharp in this game, 7 runs allowed in 4 1/3 innings. From there, Anthony Bender, a pair of outs out of the bullpen squirrels. He did have Andrew Nardi give up 2 runs in 2 innings, but not bad here from the bullpen with Michael Peterson, great name, along with Josh Eknes, and the MLB debut of William Kepner, all being able to give you a scoreless setting. So Orioles looking to claw their way back to 500, a team that has been clawing their way well above 500. The Tampa Bay Rays are the second best team in terms of record in the American League, 4-3. They pulled this one out against the Blue Jays thanks to a pair of runs in the 8th inning. Kevin Gausman, solid start, 6 innings, gives up 2 runs, all of which were earned. Jeff Hoffman from there, he goes for a squirrel setting, but then Tyler Rogers gives up a pair of runs at a 1/3 of an inning. Louis Varland, pair of outs out of the bullpen squirrels, and Drew Rasmussen does give up a 3 spot in 6 innings. He allows a home run to Kazuma Okamoto, 10th home run season, but Rays bullpen getting back online. Hunter Biggie, Casey Lugumina, Cole Sulzer, all able to end scoreless settings for the Yankees. They got down 3-0 early on in this game, but they claw their way back 7-4. They get the job done against the Walker Texas Rangers. Jacob deGrom's worst start in quite some time. 6 runs allowed in 6 1/3 innings. Take it deep twice in this one as you had Ryan McMahon get his 3rd home run on the campaign, and Jazz Chisholm his 4th. Paul Goldschmidt a little bit later on off of Tyler Alexander, 2nd home run of the season. Jalen Beeks, pair of outs out of the bullpen squirrels. Alexander gives up that home run, a solo shot in his inning of work, and for the young gun, 2nd career start for Elmer Rodriguez, not necessarily what he was looking for. 3 runs allowed in 4 2/3 innings, walked 4, much like his first start against the Rangers, but bullpen at his back. David Bennar, he does give up a run in 1 2/3 innings, but the team was still able to get the job done with having Tim Hill, Brent Hedrick combined for 5 outs out of the bullpen squirrels, and Fernando Cruz was able to end a scoreless inning. Had plenty of scoreless innings from the Minnesota Twins. They take down the Washington Nationals by a count of 11-3. Nationals weren't able to keep it scoreless because Gate Cavalli gave up 6 runs in 4 innings, only 3 of which were earned. It was due to his own fielding error, though, so have to throw that in there. Paxton Schultz from there, 2 scoreless innings, and Andre Granillo, he gives up 4 runs in 2 innings. The dealio was he gave up a home run to Byron Buxton, 11th home run of the season. Orlando Revolta gives up a run in an inning, and Taj Bradley continues his solid start to the season. 2 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings. Eric Orze gives up a run in an inning, but Anthony Banda, Luis Garcia, they both have an ERA above an 8, but on this day, they both gave you a scoreless inning to be able to get that one to the window. So Nationals now 4-13 at home this far this season, and for the Dodgers, they're 22-14 right now. They take an L against the Houston Astros, 2-1 the final. Dodgers have been struggling with their offense over the last week or so as Shohei Ohtani, solid start here. He does give up 2 home runs, both of the solo variety, as it was home run number 9 of the campaign for Christian Walker and Braden Shoameki. Hopefully you got that correct. might be Shoemake, his second home run of the campaign from there. Alex Vesia scoreless inning, but Peter Lambert has been a nice find thus far for the Astros. He actually struggled in the Nippon Baseball League in Japan last season, but 7 shutout innings here. Brian King, he was the king of giving you 2 innings, allows a run along the way, but Astros find a way to be able to get that one to the window, and the Red Sox get this one to the window. 10-3 the final. They have had a rough go of it on offense, but Framber Valdez, boy did he have a rough go of it. Ejected after he threw at someone in, I believe it was a 4th inning. 10 runs, 7 of which were given up in 3 innings as William Contreras, 3rd home run of the season. Ceddanne Rafael is 2nd. Wilder Abreu, while is out for his 5th home run of the season. Bullpen from there was fine. Brennan Hennefy, 3 scoreless innings. You had Emmanuel De Jesus give you a scoreless inning. Bridge Smith, 2 scoreless innings, but Giovanni Morin, the opener, he gives up 2 runs over the course of an inning, does get taken deep by Matt Vierling, 2nd home run of the season, but Brian Mayo looked very good in this one. He's had a rough season, 1 run allowed over the course of 7 innings, and then you had a scoreless inning from Alec Gamboa in his MLB debut, so congratulations to him to be able to polish that one off, and the Kansas City Royals were able to polish this one off. 5-3, they take down the Cleveland Guardians, as for the Guardians, Gavin Williams starting to experience some regression. 5 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings, taken deep twice, as you had Michael Massey get his 2nd home run of the campaign. Isaac Collins is 3rd. Stephen Kolek, a little bit of surprise starter. Noah Cameron placed on the injured list. Not bad here. 3 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings, taken deep by Rhys Hoskins, 3rd home run season, but bullpen at his back, as you had Nick Mears, Daniel Lynch, and Lucas Hersich all on the scoreless inning. And Colin Olderman, he did live up to his name for the Guardians, too little too late, but he was able to lend them 2 scoreless innings. The Phillies, they were able to lend themselves another win. I believe they've only lost 1 game since Donnie Baseball took over. 9-1. They take down the Athletics. Luis Severino, not a bad start here. 1 run allowed in 5 innings, that 1 run being a solo home run to Bryce Harper, 8th home run season. He would then go deep off of Tyler Ferguson, home run number 9 of the campaign from, and then Bryson Stott also off of Ferguson, 3rd home run of the season, as Scott Barlow lent a scoreless inning, but Mark Leiter Jr., 4 runs allowed in 2/3 of an inning, and then Ferguson now has a nice hearty 20-70 ERA. Far outside the bullpen, but allows those 2 home runs, 4 runs, all of which were earned. And then for the Phillies, Christopher Sanchez in peak form here. 10 punch-outs, 8 shutout innings. Yohan Duran in his first appearance off the injured list did walk 3, gave up a run in an inning, but it was in a 9-0 game, so good time to be able to sort out the kinks there. And the Phillies, they find a way to get that one to the window. The team with the best win percentage in all of baseball picks up another win. The Atlanta Braves, they find a way to be able to get the job done. This by a count of 3-2, as Bryce Elder, he gave a relatively good start in this one, as he gives up 2 runs over the course of his 6 innings of work. Did allow a home run. J.P. Crawford, 4th home run of the campaign. On the flip side for the Atlanta Braves, Matt Olson, 13th home run of the season. The difference maker, as it was 2-2 going into the 9th inning. That comes off of Andres Munoz, who's had a rough season, giving up that solo home run in his inning work. Jose Ferrer gave a scoreless inning, and George Kirby, pretty solid here for the Seattle Mariners. 2 runs allowed in 7 innings, and bullpen of the Atlanta Braves, rock solid. Dylan Lee, Robert Suarez, Raciel Iglesias, fresh off the injury list, all supply a scoreless inning, all exit the game with a 1.02 ERA or better. The Arizona Diamondbacks, they get the job done against the Pittsburgh Pirates. This by a count of 9-0. For the Pirates, this was not what Bubba Chandler was necessarily hoping for. 2 runs allowed in 5 innings, which isn't bad. He only gave up 2 hits, but walked 6. From there, you don't mess with the Yohan Ramirez got messed with. 5 runs allowed in a third of an inning. Evan Sisk from there, 1 2/3 innings. He was able to go scoreless, but Dennis Santana, he gives up 2 runs in his inning of work, and Eduardo Rodriguez, he's a prime regression candidate, but a good start here. 7 shutout innings. Jonathan Loaizaga, a scoreless inning, and you also had a scoreless inning out of Brandon Garcia. For Logan Webb, it's been a rough start to the season, and it got even rougher as the Padres, they did rough them up 10-5. The Padres get the job done as Webb. 6 runs allowed over the course of 4 innings, gives up home run to Xander Bogaerts, 6th home run in the campaign. From there, J.P. Brubaker and Ryan Baruchi both come in for an inning apiece, both give up 1 run. Yo Piero, fresh off the injured list, a scoreless inning, and Gregory Santos, he goes for 2 innings. He allows along the way a pair of runs of his own. Walker Buehler, not necessarily the greatest performance, 4 runs allowed in 5 1/3 innings. They get taken deep by Casey Schmidt, 6th home run in the campaign, but enough to be able to get the job down here. Jason Adam and Ron Mendonaccio, they were able to end a scoreless inning. Been a little bit shaky for Jeremiah Estrada, 1 2/3 innings. He does allow a solo home run, as it was home run number 1 of the season for Jesus Rodriguez, I believe his first career home run as well, but Not enough for the Giants to be able to get that one to the window. Just enough for the Cubs to be able to get to the window, though. 3-2. They get the job done against the Cincinnati Reds. This came in 10 innings as Andrew Abbott, good start here, 5 2/3 innings scoreless. Connor Phillips from there gives up a run in 1 1/3 innings. Tony Santillan, though, he gives up a home run in his inning of work as Michael Busch, who's had a rough start to the season, 3rd home run in the campaign. From there, Emilio Pagan came into the game and he only threw 1 pitch, so from there they had to go with Jose Franco to be able to get out of the 9th inning. He was able to keep it scoreless. Sam Moll, though, he gives up the walk-off winner in the 10th inning as Michael Busch, who had the home run in the 8th inning, walks it off with a single in the 10th. And James Taillon does give up a pair of home runs in his 5 2/3 innings of work. You had Nathaniel Lowe get low for his 6th home run season. J.J. Bleday, he gets his 4th, and from there the bullpen did its part. Javier Assad, 1 1/3 innings scoreless. Jacob Webb, Daniel Palencia, Ryan Rollison, they're all able to supply a scoreless inning. And then the LA Angels, they did something that they haven't done a lot of this year, win a baseball game, 4-3. They take down the Chicago White Sox. Eric Fetty Wap gets whopped. 4 runs allowed in 4 2/3 innings. Trio bombs as Mike Trout, his 11th home run season. Ode Soler is 8th, and Zach Neto is 6th. From there, the bullpen was able to do their part. Brian Hudson, Jordan Leisure, they both give you a scoreless inning. Tyler Davis, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless, and it was the starter Sam Algieri who gave up 2 runs over the course of 4 innings. From there, Sam Bachman does give up a home run in 1 2/3 innings of work. Chase Meadroth, he was able to get his 2nd home run of the season, but Jose Fermin was able to give you a scoreless inning. Drew Pomeranz as well, and then Ryan Zephyr on 4 outside the bullpen to be able to close out the game in the 8th and 9th innings. If you're taking a look at trend-wise, what we're getting in Major League Baseball right now, it has been an overwhelming start to the season with the over rate being 52.7%, 275 overs to 247 unders. We've had quite a few pushes along the way. If math serves me correct, I believe we're up to 16 of them. And for favorites, they're at 56.2% on the money line, 297 and 231. Among those favorites, 57 have failed to cover the run line, and if you're looking at the last 7 days in baseball, favorites sitting at 57%, 53 and 40 on the money line, but 19 of those favorites failed to cover the run lines. A lot of one-run winners. Meanwhile, if you're looking at the over and under rate, 45 overs, 45 unders, and 4 pushes, so as 50-50 as it gets. That's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's where we're all getting trend-wise. Coming up next, how about if we do chat it up with one of our good friends, Scott Reichel. He does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He joins me next right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Beats and Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Beats and Family Podcast. Great to be joined by this man as we've got Scott Reichel aboard. He is really the 5-tool guy over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He helps out with their tennis podcast, the NBA podcast, the MLB podcast, you name it, he does it. He's a stat sheet stuffer over there at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Does an amazing job on so many different fronts, based out there in the northeast part of the country, and a man that you're able to follow on the old Twitter/X at Reichel Radio. That last name is spelled Reichel. And Scott, great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Yep, thanks for having me on the show.
Great to have you aboard. And Scott, we're about 5.5, 6 weeks through the season, and have there just been a few general takeaways that you've had from this baseball season thus far? Because I feel like what has really been capturing my attention thus far hasn't necessarily been the surprises, but has been the amount of big disappointments that we've had thus far.
Yeah, I can think of a couple of teams, same thing as you. The Mets, of course, are a team that jumps off the page. The Red Sox and the Phillies. So 2 of those 3 teams did fire their head coaches or managers already. Mets are still hanging on to Mendoza. Why, I'm not sure. I'm not really sure, but they're 13 and 22, dead last in the division. So definitely, I feel like most people tend to notice the extremes more than the, I'd say, mundane teams in the middle. But the Mets, Phillies, and the Red Sox had been the story so far this season, and not in a good way.
Yeah, not at all. It has been very rough for those teams, to say the least. And I know you're out there in the northeast part of the country. How do you look at the Mets right now? Because I can't think that they're going to be this bad for the entirety of the season. But even though they've won back-to-back games, they obviously had their game snowed out in this case on Tuesday. It's just hard for me to really back them until they string a few wins together and they just for a week or two look like a competent baseball team again.
Yeah, well, it also depends on schedule. I mean, they won a couple of games against the Angels and the Rockies. Congratulations, I guess. But once again, the Mets have not really been a good team whatsoever. For betting their games, simply put, take unders. This team can't really score. Currently the second fewest runs per game in the entire league. Bottom of the barrel's San Francisco, which is also park dependent. But the point is the Mets offensively, when you pay Soto that much money to still be right now in 29th out of 30 teams in runs per game, not what you want to see when you're paying one guy basically $700 million. So we'll see what happens moving forward. Of course, Lindor's out indefinitely, but the Mets offense has really been the main reason why this team has fallen apart, and it's why the unders keep cashing in their games.
Yep, it has been wild what we've been seeing there. And for the New York Mets, it's been rough for them. And we currently don't know who's going to be starting for the Colorado Rockies on Wednesday because that game got snowed out. It's either going to be Jose Quintana or Michael Lorenzen, which neither guy is necessarily a guy that I'm going to be looking to back. But that said, we're seeing that opening total right around 9.5 to 10. I know you were talking about a lot of unders. Could this be a case where we do see a rare over, though, just because with the Rockies, whether it be Quintana or Michael Lorenzen, have a tough time having any faith in them whatsoever, and obviously at Coors Field, things get very elevated.
Well, yes and no, because both pitchers actually did shut down the Mets about a week ago. So that's kind of why it's a bit tricky, because we know that Quintana has been better lately, though. He has allowed one earned run in each of his last two starts after a pretty slow start to the season. As for Lorenzen, he's been a mess, but the one guy kind of shut down was the Mets. So I feel like in this case, if I was going to go for an over, it might actually be a fade of Scott on the other end because he has not been very good for the Mets this season. But I've seen Quintana shut this team down before, same thing with Lorenzen. I get the appeal for an over, but with the Mets' current form, I just can't take it over with this team.
Yeah, I mean, man, it's been rough for the Mets, to say the least. As Scott Reichel, who does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, joined me on the Baseball Betting Show. And then the other disappointment out there in the division is the Philadelphia Phillies. And no doubt about it, it's been rough for them. But I'm not sure if you'd agree / disagree with this. I, at the very least, feel a little bit better about the Phillies than the Mets right now because you mentioned it. They did make a managerial change under Don Mattingly. They've been much more competent. I think that the return of Zach Wheeler as well has helped them out, where the Mets, they just don't have those pitching reinforcements that they're going to be able to rely upon.
Yeah, I think the main word I'd use for the Phillies separating themselves from the Mets is proactivity. The team saw that they were off to a bad start and decided, you know what, we've had Thompson for a while as our manager. Time to pull the plug. We should be doing better than this. And Mattingly so far has been good. Phillies are winning right now, so they might end up winning another game tonight. So we'll see how that ends up going. But they have won, assuming the Phillies hold on 7 of their last 8, so they've kind of turned it around. The Mets, though, once again, just keep hanging around, not really doing anything different, and they're going to try to get themselves out of the hole that they're in. But at least the Phillies have been proactive. Wheeler was good when he came back from the IL, so that's definitely a nice boost to have to your rotation when you get Wheeler back in the fold. But the Phillies, we know offensively they got talent. They got off to a bit of a slow start. But the fact is, with Mattingly now under control as the manager, it does feel like there's a little bit more, I'll use the word organization, and a little bit more, I'd say, steadiness when it comes to this overall roster. And I do think that has helped out, at least get a different voice in the locker room to help stabilize the entire team so far.
Yep, I do agree with you there. And Don Mattingly, I've always felt like he's a pretty solid manager as well. So I think that that's been helping them out. And we are going to be seeing Zach Wheeler on the bump on Wednesday. And right now, obviously, very sizable favorite. I'm right now seeing this minus 160, minus 170. But with a total of 8.5, is that a game that you might be interested in? Because I do look at Wheeler, and he's impressed me in his first 2 starts. And Jeffrey Springs, just like so many of these Athletics pitchers, has always been so much better away from home rather than at home. And that's got me gravitating towards that 8.5 to the under. Yeah,
I'm on the under. Looking at the A's, I think they should probably struggle against Wheeler in this matchup. I didn't mind the Phillies minus 1.5 at plus 126. As I said before, they've been very good recently. Springs was off to a great start this season. He had a no-hitter going against the Yankees for a bit. However, last couple of starts, not that great. Last 3 starts, 14 innings pitched, 13 earned runs. So regression hit him pretty hard. And I do think Philly's offense right now is starting to get back on track. I like Wheeler, though. But for the Phillies minus 1.5, I like the plus 126.
Yep, I think that that's a solid look there, especially if we can get that up just a hair more. We'll be liking that myself, as Scott Reichel does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, joining me on the Baseball Betting Show. And then I think this one is a relatively fun one as well, as we've got ourselves the Pirates and the Diamondbacks, with the Pirates right around about minus 150 or so favorites and a total of 8. With Paul Skeens, he had that rough first outing of the season where nobody could field for him. Ever since then, he's been solid. And Michael Soroka is a guy that I think is much better than his ERA would indicate. How do you take a look look at both this game and the Pirates moving forward, because I think out of all the pleasant surprises and the young teams in the National League, they've got the most staying power because I believe the most in their pitching.
Yeah, Cruz has been solid so far at the plate before the pitchers. Anytime you have Skeens and you have a collection of other guys like, for example, Keller, who everyone thought was going to get traded about a year or two ago, who's still around helping with the rest of that rotation. Soroka, though, has been very good at home this season, 1.64 ERA. You are right, though. His overall 4.7 ERA is quite misleading. He was great so far this season, but Milwaukee shelled him in his last start. 3 innings, 8 earned, so his ERA skyrocketed after that. But it's an outlier start. He has been pretty consistent besides that one outlier. And I do think that the first 5 under could be appealing in this one. We're assuming Skeen's going to go pretty well because he normally does. Yes, he has not been as sharp as he has been in previous seasons, but for a first 5 total of around 4, give or take, I think Soroka can go pretty well. I think Skeen should go pretty well. I don't mind a low-scoring start to this game. As you mentioned, Soroka is better than his overall ERA suggests because of that one really bad outing. So I don't mind a low-scoring start to this game. I'll go for the first 5 under.
Yep, I think that that's a solid look as well. And when it comes to Skeens, if you look outside that first start where nobody fielded for him, 0 or 1 runs allowed in 5 out of his last 6 starts as well. So feels like water is starting to find its level there. And I mentioned it at the top. We've had a lot of disappointments in all of baseball. How about if I highlight one of the teams that has been a pleasant surprise, though? The Rays currently have the second best record in all baseball. Certainly it's going to be tough to track down the New York Yankees, but they've gotten off to a nice start. They're going to be facing off against Patrick Corbin and the Blue Jays. It's about -130, -135 favorites. Is this a team that you can both find yourself getting to on Wednesday and perhaps a little bit more moving forward? Because I think that a lot of people are going to think that the Rays might regress here, but I think that they've got some real staying power with this roster.
Yeah, when you're asking me if I'm going to continue looking at the Rays, I already have been, so there's no reason to stop
Perfect.
now. They are 22-12 overall. They are 12-4 in the first season back in the Trop, which is a pretty, in my opinion, underrated home field advantage, always based on the fact that they play in a dome. Very unique surroundings with the roof, so based on that, I do think they have an edge there. But 12-4 at home speaks for itself. McClanahan's been good so far this season. Corbin has actually been decent, at least for what the expectations were when the Blue Jays did end up signing him. But Toronto is still on the verge of potentially being either 16-20 or 17-19, depending on how the game goes tonight. But I like McClanahan here. I'm surprised this line is actually this cheap. I thought that the Rays would be around like -145, at least based on the record differential, their home numbers in Toronto being pretty injured and being right now 6-11 on the road. I think it's pretty cheap. I thought Tampa would be around -145, so I'll grab it. McClanahan, of course, has been a very solid pitcher for his entire career. The issue has been durability, but since he's healthy, ERA of around 3 flat. Corbin, I know, has been once again better than expected, but that is a pretty low bar. I think Tampa should be a bigger favorite. I don't mind actually lighting the juice here in this game.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I felt like this line should have been closer to about a -160 myself, so we're in lockstep there, loving what I'm seeing out of McClanahan. And Patrick Corbin, each of the last 6 years, has had a 4.40 ERA or better, so I think that the regression monster is going to be catching up to him a little bit here. And we've got all 30 teams in action on Wednesday. A little bit of a mystery in terms of the Mets versus Rockies and the Brewers versus the Cardinals as I'm doing this, because their games got postponed on Tuesday, and sometimes you get some funkiness with regards to pitching rotations there. But anything else that you're going to be looking at on this card for Wednesday?
Yeah, I was actually looking at the White Sox in their game against the Angels. The White Sox have quietly been mediocre, which is a serious compliment for this team based on what we've seen for the last couple of years. 17-18 right now. They got Schultz going in this one, who's a young pitcher, but he's been very good so far this season. He has allowed less than 3 earned in 3 straight starts. You're looking at Urena going for the Angels, who's been fine, a 3.86 ERA, but we know the Angels have been really bad recently. They're 13-23 straight up. They've lost, I believe it's 9 of their last 10. They've been a mess, and you're looking at the actual pricing for these two teams. They're basically even in this game. You're looking at the White Sox and the Angels both being -108. I disagree with that. I think Schultz is better. Once again, the White Sox are only 1 game under 500, and the Angels are kind of a lost cause. So I don't really mind going for the White Sox here at a pretty cheap price. I think they should be a slight favorite, maybe like -120, -125. But a pure pick'em at -108 just feels completely incorrect. I'll go for the White Sox at -108.
Yep, I'm in total agreement with you there as well, because even if you think that Urania along with Schultz are pretty much equals, that Angels bullpen, holy crud, you cannot trust in those guys whatsoever. We've seen them light so many games on fire this year. It's not even funny. Again, the White Sox, not necessarily the greatest bullpen in the world. When you got Seranthony Dominguez as your closer, that's not great, but somehow, some way, a whole heck of a lot better than the LA Angels bullpen. So, right there with you. And Scott, I know that you're doing such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. You do like 500 podcasts for them. You do so also well. You cover so many different things, so let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, first of all, the secret to hosting a lot of podcasts is avoiding sleep. That's the secret to having such a busy schedule. But anyway, you can find me on Twitter, Reichel Radio. Find me on SGPN, bunch of podcasts you said before. WNBA season is starting up next week or later on this week, so check that out as well, because I'm also co-hosting the WNBA show. Besides that, though, all my picks are free. Find me on Twitter at Reichel Radio.
Absolutely. Scott, he's cut from the same cloth as myself. Who needs sleep? Because money doesn't sleep. And Scott, he does such an excellent job on so many different fronts, and was great to get him aboard today. Big thanks to Scott Reichel for joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the Beats and Family Podcast. Coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Wednesday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Beats and Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Scott Reichel, who does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He does an incredible job on so many different fronts, whether that be basketball, baseball, tennis, you name it, he does it, and every single time he joins me on such great insight. So a big thanks to Scott for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Wednesday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_81. We are going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first in time order, then the American League games in time order. Any interleague games, those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. This starts with 9:51, 9:52 on the card. It is the Milwaukee Brewers on the road against the St. Louis Cardinals. It looks like we should be getting the same pitching matchup that we were supposed to yesterday. Andre 3000 Palante going for the Cardinals, Brandon Sproat going for the Milwaukee Brewers, and if this is the case, I'm going to be going with the same handicap that I had yesterday when this was pulled off the board. The total was between 7.5 to an 8, with it being relatively between -105 to a -110 on both sides. And for the Cardinals, I did set their money line price at a -127, and I'll be in on the over. I set my total at an 8.7. Now, the pitching matchup that was expected was going to be Matthew Liberatore against Jacob Mizorowski. If you do get Mizorowski, the Brewers will be a favorite in some form or capacity, relatively huge, and that'll probably suppress the total by a full run. If you get Matthew Liberatore, he's a little bit of an upgrade to Andre Palante of about 10 cents. So I do want to throw that in here before I go any further, since the Brewers versus Cardinals game on Tuesday got rained out. But that said, if it is indeed Brandon Sproat, 6.75 ERA, 6.27 field dependent, giving up over 2 home runs, over 5 walks per 9 innings, he's up and great. And for our friend Andre 3000 Palante, the ERA is not too bad, but he always just pitches to a lot of contact. He gives up a lot of walks, and he just hopes and prays to not give up home runs. And he has been giving up about 1.1 home runs per 9 innings thus far this season. And the ERA is respectable at a 3.73, but 4.68 fielding independent. And then you do take a look at the Cardinals in terms of their lineup, and it has been one that has been in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of run creation. Alec Burleson has been able to give you over 350 on base. Jordan Walker hitting just a hair below a 300. He's been able to do a nice job supplying the boom with 9 home runs. I still do trust in Nolan Gorman. Doesn't do a great job in terms of getting on base. Need a little bit more power to warrant that, but you've got Ivan Herrera giving you over a 415 on base. JJ Weatherholt hitting about a 250, but a 360 on base with 7 home runs. Need more out of Victor Scott and a few guys at the bottom of the lineup, but overall it's been a pretty solid team with that regard. And it does feel like the Cardinals are starting to figure it out in terms of bullpen as well, because they've had a few guys that have just absolutely sunk it up. Ryan Stanek has well above a 70 ERA thus far this season. Justin Austin Brule has been posting up an ERA that's well above a 5. Chris Roycroft, they had to send him down to the minor league level, but Riley O'Brien, Gordon Gassefo, these guys have been able to give you a sub 250 ERA. Jared Schuster might have a little bit of something there. He's looked relatively solid, and Jojo Romero right now above a 350 ERA. That should regress a little bit, and for the Brewers, they've been more of a league average team in terms of their bullpen ERA. Much of that has been due to the issues of Trevor McGill to begin the season, and Abner Uribe is above a 350 ERA as well. That should be coming downward a little bit, but you've had Brian Fitzpatrick come up for the minor league level and be solid. He, DL Turned Paul, give you a sub 250 ERA. Grant Anderson, as a long guy, has been able to give you about a 325 ERA, and reinforcements are coming for the Brewers. You get back Jackson Trio and Andrew Vaughn, pair of guys that were able to give you good power and move the line last season, and this is the Brewers team that once again doing an amazing job in terms of being able to swipe bags. Bryce Terang over a 430 on base. They've been able to find functional power without those guys as well. Terang, Jake Bowers, along Gary Sanchez have all been able to give you 5 home runs apiece, and though Sanchez hits for just a 211, 371 on base. Lines with Luis Renifo have not necessarily been great for the team, but Garrett Mitchell, 365 on base. Even someone like Brandon Lockridge, David Hamilton, these guys are giving you a 335 on base or better. So if we do get Sproat versus Palante, we'll be backing on the Cardinals up to a minus 125 on the money line, and in half or less like the over. Again, if the Brewers throw out there Mizorowski, he'll probably be at least a minus 130 favorite, whether that be against Matthew Lubator or Andre Palante, and I would say Lubator probably a 10 to 15 cent upgrade to Andre Palante, and if it would be Lubator against Sproat, we'll be probably looking at an 8 or less to the over, 8.5 or higher to the under. 953 and 954 on the card. The Mets are on the road against the Rockies. Freddie Peralta is on the bump for the Mets, looking like they're going to be going with Jose Quintana, going for the Colorado Rockies. This is another one of those games that got washed out on Tuesday, but if you do get Quintana going up against Freddie Peralta, I did set the Mets at a minus 158 on the money line. Would be willing to lay up to a minus 105 on the run line. Would need at least plus 159 to take a shot on the Rockies, and then set a total of 10.8, 10.5 or less, like the over, any 11 or higher to the under. Right now, I'm seeing in most places the Mets minus 160 to minus 170 on the money line. That run line price is between a minus 105 to a minus 110, and I will be looking at the 10 that I'm seeing out there to the over for Jose Quintana, and for that matter, if you get Michael Lorenzen either, that's pretty much going to be the same handicap, because Michael Lorenzen over an 80 ERA when he's been at home. I think that he's doing for maybe a little bit of positive regression, but both of these guys are not necessarily strikeout artists, so regardless of Quintana or Michael Lorenzen, this price is going to be remaining the same. And for Quintana, even though the ERA overall this season is a 4.07, he's got a 631 fielding dependent, 4.4 strikeouts, a 4.1 walks allowed per 9 innings, 1.8 home runs allowed per 9. Now, whichever guy goes, Lorenzen or Jose Quintana, they're going to benefit from the fact that they get to go up against a Mets team that is currently in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of run creation. I do think that things are going to get a little bit better. I think that Bo Bichette is going to pick it up. Marcus Semien, I just don't see it with him. He has been absolutely awful for the last few seasons. Mark Vientos has now been able to give you 4 home runs, and he's looked a little bit better. He's now hitting for 250. Juan Soto has obviously been amazing. Last year he had the 40-plus home runs. He only had 400 on base, but on any given day, typically he, along with MJ Melendez, are the only 2 guys in line hitting above 250, and Vientos is the only guy on top of that it's really above a 236 for this team. Like, you just don't have a lot of guys move the line. Francisco Lindor and Luis Robert deal with injuries. It's been a little bit of an injury issue. Ronnie Mauricio is pretty solid out there in the field, but he really doesn't give you a lot at the plate. Carson Benjay has not been amazing. For the Mets, they're starting to figure it out with the bullpen. It's been a case where Luke Weaver has been having a tumultuous start to the season, but he's looked a little bit better. Devin Williams just looks like a lost cause at this point, but in the likes of Austin Warren, Oscar Brisbane, Brooks Raley, these have been guys to give you a sub 2 ERA. Tobias Myers has been solid in the long roll as well, and for Freddie Peralta, he's still giving you over 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. The walks per 9 rate is about 3.8, so that's been an issue. 352 ERA, relatively, shall we say, similar fielding independent, and obviously at Coors Field, things are very much elevated. I know that there's some inclement weather, which makes it a little bit less of a launching pad than it typically is, but I still do like the over, because with the Rockies, you do have a guy like a Mickey Moniak who's been able to supply 11 home runs, sitting well above a 350 with regards to his on base. Troy Johnson has been able to 300 as well. You do need a little bit more of some of these younger guys. Brenton Doyle, Kyle Karros, Ezekiel Tovar hitting at 220 or lower. Jake McCarthy in a small sample size will give you about a 350 on base. Eduardo Julian is not a power hitter, but he's been able to hit for about a 275 as well. And for the Rockies, the bullpen has actually been a little bit better than it has been in the past. Antonio Senzatello was just an absolute failure of a starter. He's been able to come out of the bullpen, and he's been able to give give you a sub-3 ERA. Now, Victor Vodnik last year had a sub-4 ERA. He has been atrocious thus far this season. That's probably the most kind way of being able to put it, but Jaden Hill, Jimmy Harrogate, these are guys that gave you a sub-4.25 ERA last season. These guys, by and large, have been able to do a relatively solid job, so this is a circumstance where, with the Mets, I'd be willing to lay up to a minus 107 on that run line, and semi-total 10.8, right now seeing a 10, so we'll be willing to lay up to a minus 105 on that run line, and looking at the over. 9:55, 9:56 on the card. You've got the Padres on the road against the San Francisco Giants. Adrian Nocum, Doogie Howser is on the bum for the Giants, and Matt Waldron goes for the Padres. The Padres do find themselves as a slim favorite here, between minus 115 to a minus 118. Even money to minus 105 is that number on the Giants. 8.5 is the total. Over is minus 110 to a minus 115. Under is minus 105 to a minus 110. And for the Giants, I did set them as the favorite in this spot on a minus 114, so I do like them on the money line with Adrian Howser. He had a nice renaissance year last year and has been less than tremendous as far this season, but I still have a little bit more faith in him than Matt Waldron. Right now, a 7.12 ERA for Adrian Howser. The fielding independent has also been not great, but it's been a little bit better at about a 5.75, 1.8 home runs, 3 walks per 9 innings. It's just hard to trust in a knuckleballer like Waldron, though, because you don't know what you're going to be able to get night in and night out. It looked a little bit better in his last start, but I mean, thus far, he's made 3 starts. He's got a 9.88 ERA. He's only made 4 starts now over the last 2 seasons as well. They just stuck him at the minor league level last year. He's giving up 2 home runs per 9 innings. Both these guys are getting fewer than 5.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. So even though both of these offenses have very much struggled, the Giants, they are dead stinking last in the big leagues right now, averaging in that neighborhood about 3.1 runs per game. The Padres, they themselves got off to a nice start to the season with regards to their offense, but now they're averaging about 4.1 runs per game away from them. I do think that you're going to get runs here. I do like the over. You do have 2 really good bullpens, by the way. For the Padres, their numbers are a little bit warped by the fact that they had that series out there in Mexico City, but last year they were number 1 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen area. You got Mason Miller has been rock solid. Now, Audrey Morejon, Jeremiah Estrada have regressed this year. They're both experiencing an ERA above a 4.50, but you've got Jason Adam doing a solid job. They get back Yuki Matsui as well. That should be able to help out, but Fernando Tatis Jr. entered into yesterday with as many home runs as myself, 0, and for this Padres team, they just haven't been able to get boom. Xander Bogaerts, Manny Machado, Ramon Laureano all had 5 home runs going into yesterday, but with Machado hitting just a 225, you expect a little bit more there. Jackson Merrill's starting to heat up a little bit, but still 283 on base. That's been rough. Gavin Sheets has 4 home runs, but at 263 on base. Castellanos has been a disappointment, and for the Giants, Rafael Devers along with Willie Adames are not paying the dividends that they were hoping that they would. Both of these guys have been hitting below a 225 with regards to batting average. Adames currently has 3 home runs. Devers has 2, and neither has it over a 270 on base. That's not great, to say the least, and you've got plenty of guys outside of them that have actually been able to move the line and get on. Luis Fries is hitting above 300. Casey Schmidt is your main home run hitter, 5 bombs, about a 360 on base. Young Lee, Eloy Ramos are both hitting about a 270. Matt Chapman about a 325 on base, but right now the saving grace for the Giants has been this bullpen, as you've had so many guys go out there do a rock solid job. They are dealing with a few injuries with having a few guys like a Yo Piguero currently out of the fold, but still you've been able to get really good production out of the likes of a Caleb Killian, along Matt Gage. These guys have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Throw in there JT Brubaker for a sub-250 ERA. Keaton Wynn is able to give you some good innings, so I do think that the Giants do find a way here. I just don't trust in Waldron, so with the Giants, I'm willing to lay up to a minus 113 on the money line. I do like the over, so I told it an 8.8, 957, 958 on the card. The Reds, yes, we're on to Cincinnati. They're onto the road. They're facing off against the Chicago Cubs, as Colin Ray says hip hip hooray to another start, and got Brady Singer open to have the Cubs singing the blues. Total on this game is 8. The over and under both at minus 110, minus 168 to minus 175 is that number on the Cubs. Plus 142 to a plus 148 is currently that number on Cincinnati. Plus 145 or better. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the Cincinnati Reds, so I'm liking them on the money line. If you're looking at the wind situation, the wind should be blowing in, but it's not going to be too hard. By first pitch, it might be down even less than 5 miles per hour, so even though it's in, it's not going to be like adverse or anything like that, but I still do like the under. I did set my total at a 7.7. You've got a guy in Brady Singer that I think is going to be able to find it a little bit more. The command has been better this year than it has been in the past. Recognize he's got a 5.57 ERA with a 574 fielding independent, but 2.5 walks per 9 innings. That's his best since 2022. Swing and miss stuff has been way down, 5.6 strikeouts per 9 innings, but I do think that he's going to bounce back a little bit more here. And then when it comes to Colin Ray, right now supplying a 4.41 ERA. He's a guy that just pitches to a lot of contact. 8.3 strikeouts per 9 innings is actually his most since 2016, if you can believe that. 2.5 walks. He's been giving up less than a home run per 9 innings, going up against the Reds team that has had Cousins, Al Stewart give you 8+ home runs. He's been struggling a little bit over the last 10 or so games, but I do think that he's going to help the team move the line, find a way on base. It's really been a case where Ellie De La Cruz has been incredible this year. No shock there. He steals bases, gives you over 350 on base. He's up to 10 home runs as well, but you've had Nathaniel Lowe, Spencer Steer, both give you 5 home runs, hitting above a 250, so these guys are bolstering themselves. Now, you have a lot of guys like Brian Hayes, Matt McClain, DJ Friedel, who are hitting below the Bedell's line 200. You need them to pick it up, and for the Cubs, the catchers have been amazing for this team. Miguel Amaya, Moises Ballesteros, Carson Kelly, they'll all give you at least a 350 on base. Alex Bregman is perennially a little bit of a slow start. You expect a little bit more than 3 home runs with less than a 340 on base. Dansby Swanson has hit for power, 6 home runs, but he's barely hitting above a 200. Michael Busch has had a rough start to the season along Pico Armstrong, so they've been really relying upon Nico Horner to be able to carry the mail. And Say Suzuki, since coming off the injury list, he's been great. I do think that the Reds have a little bit of a leg up in terms of the bullpen. They began the season, first 4 weeks of the year, with the top bullpen in terms of ERA in the big leagues, and they do have Pierce Johnson on the bereavement list. I mean, a lot of this is just Emilio Pagan not being trustworthy in the 9th inning, but Rock and Roll Burka, sub 375 ERA, Tony Santillan, Graham Ashcraft, these guys have been pretty rock solid. Sam Mole's been a little bit banged up, but he's been solid as well. And with the Cubs, they're just dealing with so many injuries. The likes of Hunter Harvey, K-Villab, Theobar, Porter Hodge, Riley Martin. I mean, the injured list for this bullpen is insane. They do get back Daniel Palencia, which is big. Ben Brown has been a relatively good long guy, but I do think that Singer rounds into form a little bit more. We saw him struggle early on during the season and get better as it went along. So somebody told 7.7, like the under, and with the Reds, won't take plus 145 or better on the money line. 959, 960 on the card. It's the Pirates on the road against the Diamondbacks. Michael Soroka is on the bump for the Diamondbacks, and Paul Skeens is on the bump for Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh, a sizable favorite here, and between minus 146 to a minus 158. Meanwhile, between plus 125 to a plus 135 is that number on Arizona. 8 is the total, over and under anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115. For the Pirates, I'm willing to lay up to a minus 147 on the money line. Did set them at a minus 148. I'm right now seeing one straight minus 147, so that'd be my max there. And when we get the dime lines, we should have more like minus 145s and whatnot out there. For Paul Skeens, he had that rough first start of the season where nobody was fielding for him. Ever since then, has been rock solid. He has given up 0 or 1 runs in now 5 out of his last 6 starts. 3.18 ERA, 3.17 fielding independent, 10.3 strikeouts, 1.9 walks allowed per 9 innings. Going to say Diamondbacks team that a season ago they were in the top 5 in the big leagues in terms of run creation. They've taken a little bit of a step back thus far this season, more around about 11th in terms of run scoring, even though Ilyarmo Vargas has been incredible. He's hitting above a 350. He had that 25 plus game hit streak. He has been incredible. They actually had him starting on the bench behind Carlos Santana to begin the season. That now looks very laughable, but a lot of the guys around him just have not been able to supply you with a lot of power this year. Ilyarmo Vargas has been your top home run hitter with 6 home runs. Ketel Marte has 5 bombs, but he's hitting about a 215 entering into yesterday. Anthony Del Castro hitting below a 225. They are getting back Gabriel Moreno at the catcher spot. That helps out, but Alec Thomas is hitting below a 200. You've had Jordan Lawler being on the injured list. Geraldo Perdomo has been a little bit shaky. Corbin Carroll moves the line, gets on base, but Lourdes Gurriel is out with injury. He has yet to get a home run this season. And for the Pirates, while this is a team that is in the top 8 in terms of run creation, they're averaging closer to about 4.2 runs per game away from home. That is then in the bottom half in all baseball. Oniel Cruz, 9 home runs, over 325 on base. He's been much more consistent at the plate this year. I really love Ryan O'Hearn. 5 home runs, hitting above 300, over a 350 on base. Nick Gonzalez gets on base, hitting above a 300. You've had Colton Griffin over the last week or two start to find it at the big league level. Now, the likes of Jared Trollo, the entirety of the catcher spot has been a little bit rough, and I do think that Michael Soroka is going to be able to take advantage of that. Soroka has been pitching much better than the ERA would indicate. His swing and miss stuff has been incredible this year, so you're going to see that 4.70 ERA, but that, in my opinion, is a little bit of a Medusa. 3.24 fielding dependent, 10.6 strikeouts, 2.6 walks allowed per 9 innings, less than 1 bomb allowed per 9 innings as well. Now with the Arizona Diamondbacks, you do have Kevin Ginkel at like a 6 ERA in the bullpen right now. The Arizona Diamondbacks as a whole, 25th in terms of bullpen ERA. Paul Sewell back above a 4 ERA. That's been an issue. Juan Murillo's been a little little bit better this season. And for the Pirates, I still don't trust in Gregory Soto, but he's been having himself a really nice start to the season. You've been able to have Yuto Mets with the Yohan Ramirez be able to give you a sub 3.25 ERA. Last season, Justin Lawrence had a sub 2 ERA. He's regressed a little bit, but do think that he's going to be able to find it a little bit more as well. So with the Pirates, I do think that they do find a way to be able to get the job done here. 1 to left to -147 on the money line. I think that both these starting pitchers give you a good start, even though it's out there in Arizona. So I told 7.3, so like that 8 to the under. 961, 962 on the card. The Blue Jays are on the road against the Rays. Shane McClanahan is on the bump for the Rays. Patrick Corbin, the old turkey tosser, goes for the Blue Jays. Blue Jays are an underdog between +110 to a +120. Meanwhile, -130 to -140. That number on Tampa Bay. 7.5 is the total. Over is -115. Under is -105. And I'm willing to lay up to a -160 on the Rays money line. Now, Patrick Corbin has actually had a halfway decent start to the season. I can't believe that I'm saying it because you take a look at the track record of Patrick Corbin and it's not great. 365 ERA, 1.1 home runs, 2.6 walks allowed per 9 innings this year. It's like a dream start to the season because he's had a 4.40 ERA or higher in each out of the past 6 seasons, 5.20 or higher in 4 out of the last 5. He was a little bit better last season with the Texas Rangers, but much of that came in Arlington, where it's become one of the most pitcher-friendly environments in all of baseball. And for Shane McClanahan, is he back to full strength? Maybe not, but I mean, he's been plenty solid. 3.10 ERA, 287 fielding dependent, 9.3 strikeouts, 0.3 home runs allowed per 9 innings. He does give up a few walks, but still, it's a Blue Jays team that entered into Tuesday 21st in the big leagues in terms of run creation with about 4.1 runs per game, and they've certainly been dealing with their fair share of injuries thus far this season. They do have George Springer back in the fold. That should be able to help them out. And Kazuma Okamoto is up to 10 home runs, so he has been solid. You've got a lot of guys that are moving the line but aren't necessarily providing a lot of power. Vlad Guerrero Jr. was actually out of the starting lineup yesterday. He's been able to give you over a 400 on base. You've been able to have Ernie Clement hit above a 285. Miles Straw is doing a good job in terms of getting on base, but they don't necessarily provide a lot of power. And then you've got a guy like a Dalton Varsho last year was giving you a home run every 12 to 13 at-bats. Now a home run every 25 plus at-bats, and don't call his name Alejandro Kirk being out of the fold as hurt this team. Meanwhile, for the Tampa Bay Rays, Chandler Simpson continues to hit at 300. He's one of the best base stealers in all baseball. Junior Caminero had 44 bombs last season. He's up to 9, and it's giving you over a 340 on base this season. Jonathan Aranda back above 350 on base. Yandy Diaz dealt with a little bit of injury. He's back. He's giving you 400 on base. So, I mean, this team is doing a great job in terms of slugging it out with this Rays bullpen. It has been shaky. They're in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of ERA, but the last week or two they've been able to figure it out. Griffin Jackson being used more as a starter/an opener is good because I just feel like he, along with Ian Seymour, are starters by trade. They don't belong in the bullpen. Cole Sulser, Brian Baker, the former Orioles, are giving you a sub 350 ERA. Hunter Biggie, I do think, has a little bit of upside, and now they're getting Garrett Clevenger off the injury list. And for the Blue Jays, they're starting to figure out their bullpen as well. It was very clear that the Jeff Hoffman experiment as closer was not working out. Mason Fluharty, he's still posting up an ERA well above a 4, but he's looked better recently. Likes of Tyler Rogers, Braden Fisher, Louis Varland. These guys are giving you a sub 3 ERA, so I do like them, but I do think that the regression of Patrick Corbin is going to be coming. So I told 7.9, so like the 7.5 to the over. And for the Rays, willing to lay up to a -160 on that money line. 963, 964 on the card. It's the White Sox. They are going to be on the road against the LA Angels. We do know that Noah Schultz is going to be on the bump for the White Sox. Right now, the betting board reads to be determined for the LA Angels. There are some places that have posted up an opener, though, with the Angels being right around about a pick on both of these teams, and we're between -105 to -115 on the money line with a total of 8.5. Over is -120. The unders even, seeing a straight 9. Under is -120. Over is even. Should be Welber Yarena in some form or capacity, whether he be the actual starter or if he's working behind an opener and is a bulk guy. And regardless, I'll be taking a shot on the White Sox. I set them at a -118 on the money line. Now, you're going to be getting Yarena in some form or capacity, and thus far, he hasn't been bad. 3.86 ERA, doing for maybe a little bit of regression, 4.24 fielding dependent. The walks are the issue. Over 7 walks per 9 innings because hasn't allowed our contact. 1 home run allowed in 16 and third innings across 5 total appearances, 3 starts. He's been getting about 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but I also really like what I've been seeing out of Noah Schultz as well. It looks like this kid might be the real deal, as he's made a few starts of his own, across 4 starts, 2.53 ERA. He's a guy that is going to need to work on the command as well, about 5 walks per 9 innings, but 8.5 punch-outs per 9. Got a pair of bullpens that are not trustworthy, but the Angels bullpen is even less trustworthy than that of the White Sox. Sox, and I can't believe I'm saying that because Anthony Dominguez is right now your closer for the White Sox. They employed Jordan leisurely. He is posting up an ERA that is well above a 5. Grant Taylor's been a solid opener, but not great in the bullpen. Jordan Hicks looks a little bit washed, but for the LA Angels, holy crud. You've right now got Drew Pomeranz posting up an ERA above an 8. Ryan Zephyrion is not any good whatsoever. Chase Silseth has been fine. He's been able to give you a sub 350 ERA. That's about the only good thing that I can say about this bullpen. Brent Suter's looking a little bit washed. Mitch Ferris, he's pretty much a long guy. They are getting Kirby Yates off the injured list. That should be able to help them out. And for the Angels, it's been a very strange home and road split for them because the Angels have been really slugging it out away from home. As a matter of fact, they're a top 7 team in terms of run creation away from home, about 5.45 runs per game. Entered into yesterday with less than 3.1 runs per game at home. That's a bottom 3 mark in all baseball. Mike Trout, he's been able to give you 10 plus home runs over a 4 on base. You know what to expect there. And Ori Soler has been a bit resurgent this year despite being suspended for a few games. 7 bombs, 325 on base. But Zach Neto, he's been stuck on 5 home runs for a while. He's now hitting at 210. This was a very all or nothing team last season, and with having Josh Lowe, Yoan Moncada hitting below $180 and having Logan O'Hoppe on the injured list, looks like they might be returning to that a little bit. And then on the flip side for the White Sox, Muntaka Murakami, he entered in the day yesterday, tied for the league lead with 14 home runs. You want to talk about all or nothing offenses, by the way, man. This White Sox team is very much there. Got Colson Montgomery hitting at 226, but 9 home runs thus far this season. Miguel Vargas hitting at 228, 7 home runs. Recognize the batting average is not an end-all be-all, but man, it's been wild to say the least. And then you have Luan Acuna, Edgar Quiero, Andrew Benintendi, all hitting for less than a 270 on base without a lot of power, so you're going to need to get a little bit more there. Sam Antonasi has actually been able to give you a little bit of something out there with about a 375 on base, but I do think that Noah Schultz is able to give you a better performance, and I just don't trust in this Angels bullpen. So I told it at 8.8, between an 8.5 to a 9, would rather have an 8.5 over rather than a 9 under with these bullpens. And with White Sox, 1 to lay up to a minus 117 on the money line. 965, 966 on the card. It's the Red Sox. They are going to be on the road against the Detroit Tigers. We do know that Captain Jack Flaherty is going to be on the bump for the Tigres. Right now it is listed as to be determined for Boston. This game is off the board as a result, but this should be the return of Jake Bennett in the rotation. He pitched about 5 to 6 days ago. He didn't go yesterday, so that's what I'm figuring is going to be the case. And with the Tigers as a result, I did set them at a minus 142 on the money line, so I'd be willing to lay up to a minus 141 there. And right now I'm seeing, in terms of the very brief openers that we've gotten thus far, minus 115 to minus 120 on the Tigers. I'd be willing to lay that. You're getting about even money to plus 105 right now on the Red Sox. And if you do indeed get Jake Bennett, he had a nice MLB debut for the team. He was able to go out there, gave up 1 run over the course of 5 innings, and I really do think that he's got quite a bit of upside. He gave up a home run, a few walks in that start, but overall looked solid at Worcester this season. He was posting up a sub 1 ERA. You look at what he did at the minor league level last year, it was a sub 2 with 35 ERA. Pitch with contact guy though, about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, and for the Red Sox, they are dealing with some ailments in that bullpen. Greg Weiser has not been what he was a season ago. Now, Aroldis Chapman continues to be amazing. Garrett Woodlock is giving you a sub 350 ERA as well. It's a bit of a long guy, so I like what these guys are doing, but Justin Slayton is on the injured list, Danny Kalum is on the injured list, and right now, the rotation in general just banged up and tattered. And for the Red Sox, they've been able to get going a little bit more with their bats in this series, but still, they've been a bottom 10 team in terms of run creation thus far. Jaron Duran, along Trevor Story, Isaiah Kinner-Falefa, Caleb Durbin, all at 230 or lower with not a lot of power out of any of these guys, has been hurting them. Zidane Rafael was able to get a home run yesterday, and he's giving you about a 333 on base. Vladimir Abreu was wild out, 380 on base, and Wilson Contreras has been worth the money thus far. 7 home runs, 375 on base. He's been fine, and for the Tigers, they had a little bit of power outage towards the beginning part of the season. They're really starting to pick it up, and they've got plenty of guys that are able to move the line. Kevin McGonigal is hitting above a 300. Riley Green, a 390 on base. Spencer Torkelson, he only hits about a 220, but his on base percentage, 343. He's up to 6 home runs after a little bit of a slow start to the season. You need a bit more out of the likes of Matt Bierling, and though Gary Carpenter has 6 home runs, he's been hitting below 235 as well, so that's been a little bit touch or go. I do think that for the Tigers, even though the bullpen is getting spent a little bit more, there should be some upside here. You've got the likes of Tyler Holm, Brent Herter, Will Vest, well at a sub 335 ERA last season. All these guys have been above that, really, aside from perhaps Herter, and Vest is now on the injured list. That hurts them. That means they see more Kenley Jansen, but they pick up Birch Smith. He's been able to give you a sub 3 ERA, so I do think that there's a little bit of upside there. And for Jack Flaherty, it's been a no good, very bad, terrible year, but I do think that he's going to be able to find his command a little bit more. For his career, he gives up about 3.1 to 3.2 walks per 9 innings. He's just been uncharacteristically bad at locating this year. 7.8 walks per 9 innings. Like, he's right around his career average, 9.9 strikeouts per 9 innings this season. His career average is 10.3, but man, he just has not been able to locate. I do think that he's going to be improving moving forward, so I do think that the Tigers find a way to get the job done here. Would be willing to lay up to a -141 on that money line, and I do like that over between a 7.5 to an 8. Did set my total and an 8.3. 967, 968 on the card. The Walker Texas Rangers are on the road against the Yankees, as you've got Will Warren on the bump for the Yankees. Nathan Eovaldi goes for Texas, and Texas is back to being a underdog here between +155 to a +162. Meanwhile, -188 to -$2 is that number on the Yankees. 8.5 to 8 is the total on the 8.5. Unders -115 to -120. Unders between even a -105 on the 8.5. Over as Mondo Juice, so -125. Unders +105. If you're looking to lay a run half with the Yankees, I find that at a +115, and I do like the Rangers on the money line. I was willing to take a +142 or higher. I recognize that this has not been the world's greatest start to the season for Nathan Eovaldi, but it does feel like he's starting to round back into form, as for Eovaldi enters with a 4.76 ERA, giving up 2 home runs per 9 innings, but still only giving up about 2.2 walks per 9 innings, and he has allowed 2 earned runs or fewer in 4 of his last 5 starts. Will Warren seems to have really turned the corner as a big leaguer, by the way. 2.39 ERA, 11 strikeouts per 9 innings, 1 home run, 2 walks allowed per 9 innings. He was always doomed by the fact that his command was a little bit wonky, but now you've got a Texas Rangers team that I think we're starting to figure out how much that ballpark really suppresses their offense, because right now they are dead last in the big leagues with 2.7 runs per game at home, 10th in run creation away from home with about 4.6 runs per game. That's part of the reason why we've been seeing the likes of Jake Berger, Corey Seager, your main home run hitters, both give you about 6 home runs apiece, both giving you less than a 325 on base, really not moving the line. I really think that ballpark is really hurting them. Like, Evan Carter is right now hitting well below the Mendoza line of 200. Andrew McCutcheon is giving you nothing whatsoever. Ezekiel Duran has moved the line. He's been able to give you 350 on base, and Josh Young hitting above a 300, but not a lot of power on this team, but much of it has been coming away from him. Meanwhile, for the New York Yankees, obviously Aaron Judge, 14 home runs at a 400 on base. He's been rock solid for this team. You've got Cody Bellinger, who's been one of the more stable guys in this lineup, about a 360 on base. You love what Ben Rice is providing, 10 plus home runs. He's been able to give you over 350 on base, but a lot of infielders like Jazz Chisholm, the entire catcher spot, Paul Goldschmidt, that are hitting a 225 or lower. You just need more out of these guys. Really not a lot of power, and Trent Grisham has been about as useful as a poopy flavored lollipop this season. Now for the Yankees, they become a top 8 team in terms of bullpen area, and this is even with Camilo Duvall posting up that nasty 6+ ERA. Fernando Cruz, Brent Hendrick, Tim Hill, they all had a sub-3 ERA last season, and David Bednar, well, he has outpooped the Bednar thus far this season, but the Rangers have the leg up in terms of their bullpen. Currently, they are numero uno in terms of bullpen ERA. Recognize that they're dealing with some injuries with Chris Martin, Robert Garcia hitting the injured list, but you've been able to get some really good production out of quite a few different guys. Cole Winn had a sub-2 ERA last season. He's been solid. Jacob Junis, sub-3 ERA with Guardians last year. He's been posting up a sub-2 this season. Jacob Latz is a really nice long guy. He's been posting up like a 1 ERA, so all these guys have been able to do a solid job. I do think that Warren might see a little bit of regression, and feels like Eovaldi is returning to form. Did sub by total at 8.2, so like the 8.5 under, and plus 142 or better in on that Rangers money line. 969, 970 on the card. The Guardians are on the road against the Royals, as you've got Cole Reagans on the bump for the Royals, and Joey Cantillo goes for Cleveland. Cleveland is an underdog between plus 104 to plus 116, minus 125 to minus 135 is that number on Kansas City. 7.5 to 8 is the total on the 8. Under is minus 120. The over is even on the 7.5. Over is minus 120, and the under is even. One to lay up to a minus 125 on the Royals. I set them at a minus 126. For Joey Cantillo, it's not been an amazing start to the season. It's not been an awful start either. Right now, he has been supplying the team with about a 367 ERA, 442 fielding dependent. Have to be a little bit fearful of the command. He's given up about 4.2 walks per 9 innings, but for the Royals, we are seeing the impact that moving the fences in at Kauffman Stadium is having. They are averaging 2.9 runs per game away from home. That is dead last in all baseball. 5.4 runs per game at home. Going into Tuesday, you've had Carter Jensen, ever since the oversleep situation, actually be very good for the team. He's right now been able to supply the team with 6+ home runs thus far this season. Bobby Witt Jr., after a slow start to the season, he's now up to 3 home runs, continues to move the line, hitting above a 275. You just see more out of Vinny Pasquantino, who's been banged up, along with Salvador Perez. Both of these guys hitting below 210. Really not a lot of on base. A combined 9 home runs, which isn't awful, but you expect a little bit more there. Jack Caglione, though, seems to be rounding in a 4 bombs, hitting over a 255, entering a DS rate. Kyle Isabel, not going to give you power, but it's about a 290. And then on the flip side for the Cleveland Guardians, they're back in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of run creation, and they just are not getting a lot out of Stephen Kwan at the leadoff spot, hitting at 220. You just need more there. Now, a few unexpected guys. Daniel Schneemann, Anel Martinez, combined 9 home runs, both hitting above a 275. Brian Rocchio is actually giving you above a 330 on base. Chase Lauder, recognize that the power power has faded a little bit, but he's giving you 390 on base. That's been big because Jose Ramirez still gives you 6 home runs at over a 330 on base, but he's been a little bit down this season. The former number 1 overall pick, Travis Pastrana, has been a little bit slow going. You sort of expect that, but likes of Rhys Hoskins, Kyle Manzardo, Bo Naylor, all hitting below 225 with not a lot of power out of those guys. That's been a big giant issue. The Guardians do seem to be rounding into better form with their bullpen. Kate Smith had a rough start to the season. Hunter Regatas was on the injury list to begin the season, so these guys are coming back. Eric Sabrowski, sub-3 ERA. Tim Aaron has been able to give you a pretty much 0 ERA. He has been that good, and when it comes to the Royals, I do think that Cole Ragans is going to be able to round back into form. He last year had a 4.74 ERA, but a 2.50 fielding. Depending, he was getting the 14 strikeouts per 9 innings, and still above 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's just been getting hit hard. 2.8 home runs, 5.8 walks allowed per 9 innings, so 5.27 ERA, 6.57 fielding dependent. I do think that he finds himself a little bit more here, but I do think that with the fences in, you're going to get a higher scoring game. Still, I told it an 8.2, so like the 7.5 to an 8 to an over, and with the Royals, we'll up to a minus 125 on the money line. 971, 972 on the card. It's the Dodgers on the road against the Astros. Lance McCullers Jr. is on the bump for the Astros, and Tyler Glasnow is on the bump for the Dodgers, and the Dodgers do find themselves as mono favorites between minus 210 to a minus 220, plus 175 to a plus 185. That number on Houston. 8.5 to 9 is the total. On the 9, under is minus 115, the over is minus 105, and on the 8.5, over is minus 125 to a minus 130, under is plus 105 to a plus 110. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the Astros. I was willing to take a plus 170 or greater with them. For Tyler Glasnow, he's off to a really nice start to the season. Last year, he did have his walks issues with over 4 walks per 9 innings, and he has been pretty unhittable thus far this season. 4.4 hits allowed per 9 innings. That's top among qualifying National League starters. Still does have the 3 walks per 9 innings, only giving up about 1 home run per 9 innings, so a 306 fielding, dependent 256 ERA. But the one thing that the Astros have been able to do a pretty solid job of being able to put bat to ball. This is an Astros team that is averaging about 5.2 runs per game at home. That is in the top 8 in all of baseball. Yordan Alvarez, double figure amount of homers, over a 420 on base. I know that Jose Altuve is not quite the guy that he once was, but he's still moving the line. Carlos Correa's give you over 360 on base. Christian Walker, 7+ home runs. He's done a great job in terms of getting on base as well. So the Astros lineup has been just fine. What has really been the issue has been the bullpen for this team, which is in the bottom 5 in the big leagues in terms of ERA. Likes of AJ Bluba, Brian Abreu, Aniel De Los Santos. These are all guys who are giving you an ERA above a 5. Josh Hader being on the injury list, that's been absolutely killer. Bennett Sosa is an ERA that's over a 5. So yeah, these guys have not been great. And Lance McCullers Jr. last year, 6.4 walks per 9 innings. He's right now leading out the season with an ERA of a 6.32. Strikeout stuff is still there, over 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. And it's not like he's getting absolutely destroyed in terms of deep ball. About 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, 4.5 walks per 9. I believe he's been much better than he was a season ago, and I believe that his fielding independent, which is more than a full point lower than his ERA, bears that out, and I do think that we're going to see some positivity here. He does go up against a Dodgers team that's averaging darn near 6 runs per game away from home. That's been a top 3 mark in all of baseball. They've been a little bit cold over the last few days, but game 1 of the series, they did put up the 8 spot, so that should get them going. Dalton Rushing is right now getting a home run in 14% of his at-bats. It's just absolutely insane. And then Will Smith, he had a 4 on base last season. Freddie Freeman, only 3 home runs along Smith, but both of these guys hitting above a 275. They did have Shohei Ohtani not bat yesterday, so he'll be rested. He'll be good to go here. Miguel Vargas has been able to give you a 300 average, so even though the power has not necessarily been there for a lot of guys outside of Max Muncy, who's been able to give you 9 bombs, about a 4 on base, these guys do find a way to be able to move the line, get on base, so I do think that it's going to be an interesting scenario here. I did somebody told that at 8.8. The Dodgers bullpen has been a little bit shaky, even though I do think that Edgar Enriquez is going to be able to find it a little bit more. Jack Dreyer, Alex Vesia, these are guys that had a sub-325 ERA last season, and Tanner Scott does look to be getting back into a little bit of better form, but the likes of Will Klein and company a bit shaky. Obviously, you've got Edwin Diaz on the injury list, so 8.5 or less, going to be looking at the over and plus 169 or better, like the Astros on the money line. 973, 974 on the card. The Braves are on the road against the Mariners. Brian Wu says woohoo to another start, and Martin Perez goes for the Braves. The total on this game is 8 to 8.5. On the 8.5, under is minus 120. The over is even. On the 8, over is minus 110 to a minus 120. Under is between even and minus 110. And for Seattle, I made their money line price a minus 133. Right now, I'm seeing a minus 132 out there. That's a max I'm going to be willing to lay. Now, many of these prices are currently reflecting the fact that many thought that Grant Holmes was going to be making the start. Heck, for my write-up, I thought that Grant Holmes was going to as well. I had a very slim difference between Martin Perez and Holmes. I do think that Perez is a little bit of an upgrade, and both of these starting pitchers have really struggled in terms of being able to get strikeouts thus far this season. For Martin Perez, that's nothing new to him because for his career, he gets under 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he's been a little bit banged up. He's been having a few starts skipped this far this season, but overall for Perez, he hasn't been too bad. Only about 6 strikeouts per 9 innings. The 2.22 ERA is going to be doing for regression. 4.45 fielding dependent, but 1 home run to 3.2 walks allowed per 9 innings. For Brian Wu, prior to his last 2 starts, he was looking very good. Gave up a combined 13 runs in those last 2 starts. I think that he's going to bounce back. Career worst for him right now. 4.61 ERA, 6.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he still is giving up less than 1.5 walks per 9 innings, and with this ballpark, it is one of the best pitchers ballparks out there in all of baseball, especially this time of year when it's not overly warm. For the Atlanta Braves, they have been amazing with their offense entering in this series. Numero uno in terms of run creation, even with Ronald Acuna Jr. really not giving you too much whatsoever. It's been the likes of Ozzie Albies, Drake Baldwin, who have combined for 17 home runs, both hitting above a 300. Matt Olson, 12 bombs. I remember when he had the 50 home run season back when the Braves were at peak form in 2023. He's got 12 home runs through 36 games thus far this season, so he's on that pace. Mauricio Dubon has been moving the line, hitting above a 260. You've had Michael Harris be able to supply power and hitting above a 300. Dom Smith has been solid, so it is a locked and loaded lineup. And then for the Mariners, Cal Raleigh, they've got him DHing a little bit more. Seems like he's dealing with a little bit of ailment, and he has a 7 home runs, but he's hitting below the middle sign of 200. You just expected a little bit more out of Josh Naylor than a 225 average and 4 home runs. Mitch Garver, they're going to have him probably play a little bit of catcher here next few days. He's been a little bit of an issue. JP Crawford is not really moving line, but both of these teams have amazing bullpens as well. Both of these teams in the top 5 in terms of bullpen area. Now, for the Mariners, Gabe Spire, Matt Brasher on the injured list, and Andres Munoz had issues a few weeks ago. Looks like he's back into form. Jose Ferrer has been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Edward Bizardo has been giving you a sub-3 ERA since the beginning of last year, and Cooper Criswell has been a nice find for them as well. And then for the Atlanta Braves, Tyler Kinley, since coming out over to Atlanta, a sub-275 ERA. They're getting back Raciel Iglesias. He and Robert Suarez form a really nice 8th and 9th inning duo. Aaron Bummer, he has not been a bummer as he and Dylan Lee have been pretty solid in the back end. Bummer has seen his ERA go up a little bit here in the last few days, but even if he continues to struggle, you've got Ronaldo Lopez now in that bullpen as well. So I do think that both of these starters round into a little bit of better form. So my total 7.1. I like the under, and for the Mariners, I'm going to be willing to lay up to a minus 136 on the money line. 975, 976 on the card. It's the Orioles. They're going to be on the road against the Marlins. Yuri Perez is on the bump for the Fish, and you've got Brandon Young going for Baltimore. Baltimore does find themselves between even money to plus 110 underdogs. Minus 118 to minus 130 is that number on Miami, and the total is 8.5. The over is minus 110 to a minus 115. Under is minus 105 to a minus 110, and with the Miami Marlins, set them at a minus 149. I do like them on the money line. It's been rough for Brandon Young here in the first few starts of the season. I think that he's going to look a little bit better, but 6.14 ERA, 1.8 home runs, 3.1 walks per 9 innings. Those emulate the numbers that he had last season when he struggled coming to the big league level as well. Should benefit from the fact that the Marlins 20th in terms of run creation, about 4.2 runs per game, and the Marlins are just not a power hitting team in general. You've got plenty of guys that find a way on base. Liam Mix has been your main home run hitter, 7 home runs, hitting above a 300, and then you had Xavier Edwards, Otto Lopez, Javier Sanja, who have all been able to hit above a 290 for this group, so that's been solid. Now, the bottom of the lineup with Owen Casey, Grant Pauly, and then he's not at the bottom of the lineup, but Jacob Marcy all in at 225 or lower. That's been an issue, and should get a little bit more power with Kyle Stowers being back in the fold as well. Flip side for the Orioles, entered into yesterday in the bottom 7 in terms of run creation away from home. Just need a little bit more from some of these guys at the bottom. Kobe Mayo, Colton Cowser, Dylan Beavers, a lot of these young guys. Gunnar Henderson even hitting a 230 or lower, though I will say for Henderson, he's been able to do a nice job with the home run ball. 8 home runs thus far this season, but less than a 300 on base. Pete Alonso seems to be rounding into form. He's back up to above a 325 on base. Had a pair of home runs in that series against the Yankees, so that's all in. For the Orioles, they are now dealing with some injuries in the bullpen. Having Ryan Elsley on the injury list hurts them, but they've been much more respectable this season. You've had Uncle Rico Garcia, Ynier Cano, don't you know? These guys give you a sub-3 ERA. Anthony Nunez has seen his ERA go back to about a 4, but now you get Keegan Aiken back. He and Dietrich Enns are really able to be nice long guys. And for the Marlins, this has been a top 10 group in terms of bullpen ERA. Didn't necessarily get what they were expecting out of Sandy Alcantara yesterday, but these guys were able to save you. I know that Pete Fairbanks is on the injury list, but go back to last season, Calvin Fauché, Andrew Nardi, they posted up sub-325 ERAs along with Anthony Bender these guys should round into form. While they've been a little bit shaky, John King has been the king of giving you a sub-3 ERA, along with Blake Bakar, a nice long guy. And for Erie Perez, so much better at home rather than away from home for his career. You take a look at what he's done thus far this season, and it's not been great. 4.46 ERA, 1.5 home runs, 4 walks per 9 innings. But this is his entire career, not just one season, but for his entire career. 2.50 ERA, 0.8 home runs allowed per 9 innings at home. 5.14 ERA, 1.9 home runs per 9 innings allowed away from home. So I did set a total here of 7.7, like the under, and for the Marlins, one to lay up to a minus 148 on that money line. 977, 978 on the card. The Athletics are going to be on the road against the Phillies as Zach Whelan and Dylan Wheeler, he is on the bump for the Phils, and Jeffrey Springs goes for the Athletics. And the Athletics find themselves as a pretty sizable underdog here. You're going to be catching with them plus 140 to plus 150. Meanwhile, and between minus 166 to minus 175 is that number on the Phils. 8.5 is the total. The over and the under on that are between minus 105 to a minus 115. Seeing a straight 8, that over is minus 130 and the under is plus 110. Looking to lay run half with the Phillies, find that between plus 125 to a plus 130. It's not the Phillies money line at a minus 164, but plus 128 or better. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the run line. I would rather go run line rather than money line, because with the Athletics, I still don't necessarily trust in this bullpen. I do think that the Philadelphia Phillies, who last year they were a top 4 team in terms of run creation at home, they're going to start to find it a little bit more, even though I am in on the under, mainly because Jeffrey Springs for the second straight year has been a much better pitcher when he's been away from home rather than at home. For Springs this far this season, 3.96 ERA with 1.4 home runs per 9 innings. Neither here nor there, but you look at what he's done at home: 4.87 ERA, 5 home runs allowed in 20 and a third innings, 2.95 ERA away from home, 18 and a third innings with 1 home run allowed. And for Zach Wheeler, he looks like he's back in Zach Wheeler form. In his 2 starts, 2.45 ERA, 11.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Obviously small sample size, but he does get to go up against an Athletics team that has been in the bottom 10 in terms of run creation away from home. They're averaging less than 4 runs per game away from home. You've had Brent Rooker not be effective thus far this season, has dealt with injury. They're just getting back Zach Olof. Now Shea Langoliers, Shea has banged for 10 plus home runs, hitting above a 300, but he was out of the lineup yesterday. That's a big concern. So if Jacob Wilson hitting darn near 300, you've been able to get quite a bit out of a guy that they picked up from the Mets in the offseason, and Jeff McNeil move a line, but he doesn't necessarily give you a lot of power. And then it's been a little bit mix and match from there. You just need to be getting more out of the likes of Lawrence Butler and company. Flip side for the Phillies, it's been mostly the infielders like Bryson Stott, Alec Boehm hitting below 215. That has been the real issue. Kyle Schwarber obviously gives you Schwarber bombs, 9 plus home runs, hitting just a 210, but over a 350 on base. Bryce Harper starting to find it, 360 plus on base, got his 8th home run of the season yesterday, and JT Realmuto has been in and out of the lineup. That'll help them quite a bit. And when it comes to this Phillies bullpen, obviously it's not necessarily been amazing for themselves, but now they get Yohan Duran off the injury list. That is massive. Brad Keller's been neither here nor there. He's been giving up a little bit over a 3 ERA. Jose Alvarado's not been the same since the drug suspension, but that's at Ryan Kerkering, sub 3 ERA. He's been able to do a solid job. And for the Athletics, you've had Hogan Harris, allowed Justin Sterner, give you a 4.25 ERA or better. You've been having a few guys step up like a Joe Kunal, Jack Perkins, but I don't trust in Scott Barlow. I don't trust in Mark Leiter Jr. as well. And I do think that the Phillies are going to be able to emerge a little bit with their offense, and it's big that they have Zach Wheeler back. I'm going to be willing to take plus 128 or better on that Phillies run line, and I like the under. Somebody told 7.9. Wrap things up with 979, 980 on the card. The Twins are on the road against the Nationals. Miles Michaelis goes for the Nationals. Bailey Ober is on the bump for the Minnesota Twins. Twins are a road favorite between minus 135 to a minus 142, and between plus 113 to plus 120 is that number on Washington. 9.5 is the total. Under is minus 110 to a minus 115. Over is minus 105 to a minus 110, and I do like the Nationals here. I set them at a minus 106. Do be mindful that Miles Michaelis, he's going to be pitching in some form or capacity. They might use an opener in front of him. We've seen it a few times. So if you see someone like PJ Poulin or something, it's still going to be Miles Michaelis, who he's been awful this year. 8.23 ERA, 2.6 home runs, 3.6 walks allowed per 9 innings, but 3 runs or fewer allowed in each out of his last 5 appearances. It looks like the Nationals are utilizing him in small doses. Now, it's not like this is a Nationals bullpen that's amazing, but Brad Lord has actually been a respectable long reliever, giving you a sub 4 ERA there. PJ Poulin has been an opener, has been solid. He impacts and Schultz are giving you a sub 350 ERA. Gus Varlin has been a guy that's been able to find it with a sub 350 ERA. So they've been mixing and matching in some of these starts, and for the Nationals, currently a top 8 team in terms of run creation. Now, I do think that might be doing for a little bit of regression. You got James Wood, CJ Abrams, a combined 18 home runs entering into yesterday. Both give you above a 380 on base, and the guys around them, they've been okay. Like Jobert Vivas is giving you about a 350 on base. Small sample size, but Joey Weimer has been hitting above a 300 as well. Dallin Lyles hitting about a at 250, but you do have the likes of Jacob Young, Luis Garcia, Brady House hitting at 235 or lower. I'll give you less than a 300 on base, so I think that there might be a little bit of regression there. For the Twins, you've got Matt Wallner along Cody Clemens, who last year had 20 plus home runs, both hitting below the Benedos line toner, but Byron Buxton, he's up to 10 home runs. He has really caught some fire recently. Josh Bell not moving the line anymore. He and Lucas Shaw both below a 300 on base, and Royce Lewis has just been terrible thus far this season. Brooks Lee, though, he's giving you some power. He's been able to out at 260 for the Twins. They've got a bottom 5 bullpen in terms of ERA. That has been absolutely awful for this team. You've got Anthony Bando they picked up in the offseason. He and Luis Garcia both have well above a 7 ERA. Taylor Rogers looks completely washed, over a 5 ERA. Justin Topa has not been great. Cody Funderburk has been fine, about a 2 ERA. And Eric Gorze, sub 350 ERA last season with Rays. He has been terrible this season. And for Bailey Ober, he's down to about a 355 ERA, but a career low in strikeouts with less than 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, 3.1 walks allowed per 9 innings. Do think that the Nationals get to him here, and do think that we see some regression with this Twins offense. Up I told 9.1. Do like the 9 after the under, and I set the Nationals at a minus 106, so they can plus money with them on the money line, and that'll wrap things up for the Wednesday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. Big thanks to Scott Reichel. He does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He joined me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, the Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one or two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @GUnit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, they mean does not matter. So, per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. I'm coming at you guys every single day with picks and analysis on every game, every day. So, I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you so much.